This is Dim Simple Media TV, the first micro TV YouTube opposition project in Los Angeles. You never hear from Los Angeles intellectual elites what we're going to be talking about. And we're not hiding somewhere in Tucker Carlson's basement. We're not hiding in a room and like we don't want to be talking heads. We want to be in the field covering what is happening in Los Angeles. And I consider myself a local because I've lived here for 34 years. If I'm not local enough for you, I'm sorry. And you could hear that I was not born here, and I will talk about that. I grew up in Soviet Union. And Soviet Union is coming back right now with a vengeance in California. And I know what it's like to live in a socialist tyranny, as it is falling apart also, as it is becoming dysfunctional. I grew up in the 80s, 1980s, in what's now Ukraine. It used to be Soviet Union. There was no free media, there was no freedom of speech, there was no democracy. At the same time, we had free housing, free education, free healthcare. And this is exactly what California is trying to accomplish. What they're not telling you is that if we get there, we're going to be living under socialist tyranny of a government, parasitic, self-serving bureaucracy. In Soviet Union, we lived under the tyranny, socialist tyranny of a self-serving bureaucratic government. Look what's going on in California. The government is expanding. Capitalism is being destroyed. Merit-based system is being destroyed. This is all about government controlling us, giving more rights to people who depend on the government, taking away the rights from the people who pay for the government, the taxpayers, the property owners, the business owners, taking away private property. So I see a déjà vu. I am experiencing déjà vu here right now. I've lived here for 34 years, and as time went by, as progressives became more and more controlling in this area, I started feeling like this is a déjà vu experience. I'm going back to Soviet Union. And it's not just in California or Los Angeles, it's all over the country. We launched a project called Dim Simple Media on Facebook, where we posted every week, every 2 weeks, really fiery, inflammatory, controversial articles that addressed a lot of social issues from unusual standpoint, from a very philosophical position that actually talks about moral values. That socialism, unfortunately, is like cancer. Anywhere you get socialism, the society falls apart. And we were talking about it. What is really socialism? Socialism is when government expands its control over society, over the individual. So what we had in Soviet Union under socialism is that there was no private property, no business. We could not run businesses, we could not own property, and government gave us things. It gave us free housing, which was very substandard, and there was a huge shortage of housing. It gave us health care that was also low quality, but it was guaranteed. You had to pay us separately to the doctor to provide you good care. Obamacare is exactly the same thing. We had no free speech. We don't have free speech here anymore. Facebook, for example, and we experienced it personally. I experienced it because we were able to post, but even when we posted on Facebook, we had to do self-censorship because their community guidelines are draconian and they're directed specifically to destroy, eliminate free expression of anyone who goes against progressive mentality. So also, to me, it was a manifestation of a totalitarian regime when on former Twitter, 80 million followers, Trump followers, got banned in 2021. Oh, this was a private company, Twitter a private company, they can do anything they want. That was their argument. But we're talking about 80 million people and their free speech rights being banned, being eliminated, because the emerging government didn't like the government that was before. This is not done in a democracy. The same thing that happened last summer or last year when they tried to put the opposition leader. You can have whatever opinion you want about Trump, but when Biden babysitters fabricated fake criminal cases against, like, I don't know, 90 counts against Trump, against the main opposition leader who had real chances of winning the election, this was no democracy. This was a totalitarian regime in the making, especially considering that even the jury that convicted him in New York of some ridiculous, really fake, invented, like they had to fabricate the conviction for some kind of financial crime. The jury was Democrat, the judge was Democrat, the prosecutor was Democrat. This could only happen in Soviet Union, or this could happen in today's Russia, where it's a dictatorship, totalitarian regime. They crossed the line last year, and I think that's what they paid for it. That's why they lost the election also. You can't do this in a democratic society. You want to have a democracy, you need to have free speech. Anybody should be able to say whatever they want without any community guidelines, without fear of offending someone. Look, if you get offended, don't watch us. If you don't like what we're saying, either don't watch us or engage in a civilized debate. That's how democracy grows. If we are wrong, prove us wrong. Don't label us, don't ban us, don't shut our mouth. But that's what they were doing. The Facebook is a good example. We posted something when I was drafting a post. I had to consult with the marketing company asking, is this going to fly? Is this going to work? Or is it too extreme? Or is this going to offend somebody or not? You know, why should I be thinking about this? Especially that I wasn't trying to offend people. I was trying to make a good point with some valid arguments that nobody wants to talk about. So this YouTube podcast or vlog, whatever you call it, is essentially dedicated to the topics that nobody wants to talk about, and we're seeking to represent people who are silent majority, essentially. They're sitting in their homes just waiting to be taxed more. They're sitting in their homes waiting to be robbed by burglars, and they've been immobilized. They've given up, especially in Los Angeles, in California. I think they've given up because they don't see any positive changes. All they see is this beautiful building and people who are enjoying their benefits, their high salaries, expending those benefits for themselves and their cronies. They see all these scandals that happened in the city hall with the corrupt city council members being kicked out one after another, and then the new one comes in, and new one is even worse than the previous one. Why? Because I'm not blaming these people that are presiding over the city hall. They're working within a corrupt, self-serving system that doesn't represent normal people, doesn't represent civilized people, doesn't represent taxpayers, self-sufficient people. They represent people who depend on the government. They unfortunately created these enormous ghettos where people are stuck and they can't promote themselves and get out of those ghettos in a self-sufficient way. The only way they survive is by gaining public assistance. And this is no way to get out of the ghetto and buy a nice home in Beverly Hills or at least somewhere in Torrance. This is not, they're keeping them hostage basically so that they would keep re-electing these people. We have a big like electoral base for current government in Los Angeles, California, and Gavin Newsom and all these other officials, that they're kind of like breeding their own base by expanding rights. They're giving them rights. Rights means, what does it mean to expand people's rights? They try to, what they call identity politics. They try to figure out different groups that they call vulnerable victims, and then they tell them that they're victims, that they're powerless, that they've been discriminated against, they've been oppressed, and so this government will take care of them. How are they take care of these vulnerable victims? By extorting more money from successful, self-sufficient, civilized people, and misusing that money either to just give more handouts without helping people to actually progress in life and become somebody, or just taking care of themselves, expending their own salaries and their own benefits. This is no way for society to survive. This is unsustainable. This is socialism. This is why Soviet Union fell apart. So do you think that this is not going to fall apart? It's just a matter of time. It's unsustainable. People who lived through Soviet Union experience, people who lived in Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, people who lived in Vietnam from before, or China, even China and Vietnam, they gave up their socialism because they realized it's unsustainable, and we're going in the opposite direction. You see this, sometimes you see these benches saying housing is a human right, or healthcare is a human right. At whose expense? At whose expense? That's the question you have to ask when they're saying, oh, we're going to give you free healthcare. Who's going to pay for it? Oh, billionaires will pay for it. So you think the billionaires are stupid or what? Or their shareholders of those companies are stupid? They're going to pay for it? They're not going to pay for it. Normal people, homeowners, small business owners, self-sufficient people will pay for it. And they can't pay anymore. They're tired of paying. They're tired of being extorted by the government, by self-sovereign government. This is not going to survive. It's going to fall apart. That's why this whole Western civilization is falling apart, because it's been poisoned by socialism. And victims of socialism are trying to warn everybody about this. I feel like my mission is to warn people. This is why we have this Dim Simple Media project. We're trying to warn people and say, we're going in the wrong direction. We're not learning from other countries' tragic experiences. They've had really tragic experiences. Millions of people died because of socialism. And why are you doing this? Why are you promoting this idea, eat the rich? They hate the rich. Where is it coming from? It's coming from jealousy. You are trying to promote the worst in people. The jealousy, this envy. Oh, somebody is better off than me. They have better life than me. Then instead of me bringing myself up to their level, I'm going to bring them down to my level. This is what you guys are promoting. I'm talking to you, progressives. You have sick ideas. You have wrong ideas. They're taking us in the wrong direction. You're being populist because, of course, it's popular if you're going to tell all these people, oh, I'm going to give you, instead of minimum wage being $10 an hour, I'm going to give you a minimum wage $16 an hour. Who's going to say no? Which of those restaurant workers will say no? And then guess what? The restaurant cannot afford $16 an hour pay to those employees. So the restaurant goes out of business, and those employees are unemployed. They lose their jobs. They don't want to think about that. They're not thinking about that. And then also, obviously, the restaurant will raise the prices, and people don't want to go to the restaurant at such expensive prices. It's just one small example. So, common sense. what we're trying to promote here is not somebody else's political agenda. We're just trying to promote common sense, and we're using historical examples. And we're going to continue to do that no matter how hard you're trying to ban us. And that's the warning to Mark Zuckerberg, too. You're pretending like, oh, you know, now you're trying to cozy up to Trump and pretend like you defend free speech, and now you're complaining that Biden cronies were like threatening you to not, you know, to not provide alternative information about COVID or some other stuff. I saw that the interview between you, Mark Zuckerberg, and Joe Rogan about it, and you were trying to now move to the other side. But you're the one who is responsible for censorship. So you're not going to get away with it. This is destroying our democracy. You virtually have a monopoly over an effective way for media companies online to promote themselves. Those independent media companies, they have no other way to do it, and you're cracking down on them. You crack down on us, you banned us, absolutely without any explanation, without any due process. We tried to inquire with Facebook, okay, you want to ban us, why? What did we do wrong? How did we violate your community standards? There's all these community standards that are completely ridiculous. Oh, we can't offend vulnerable groups. What if there's a bad group of people? Why can't you offend them, or at least talk about them? You're limiting this. And another thing is that you have these computers that are censoring. This is not like a specific person that is a censor that you can call and say, why are you banning my project? So Facebook is responsible and needs to be held accountable for destroying our free speech, destroying our democracy.